Hello, YouTube. It's Tony Shoup with Audit the Vote PA. Wanted to give you guys an update. This video is going to be a little bit different. This is my Expose the Fraud series. I want to give you guys an update with some cool graphics I'm going to show you with some new information that we have gotten just this week. We're continuing to put our jigsaw puzzle together that was the debacle of the 2020 election and try to figure out what the heck happened. And we get new information on a daily, sometimes hourly basis. So I've got some cool things to show you. But first, I want to give you a little update on a conversation I had with House Majority Leader Representative Kerry Bennginghoff. So if you've watched any of my previous videos or you've been keeping up with what's going on, last week, or let's back up a little more, on May 18th, we had a primary election in the state of Pennsylvania where we voted to end the governor's tyrannical powers to declare an emergency declaration for an endless amount of time and essentially control us until his term is up in 2022. And everybody was under the impression that if they voted yes to that campaign, that we were essentially ending the emergency declaration that we're in. Now, the verbiage in it does say that it takes the power from the governor and it moves it into the state legislature, which very few, but some wise I'm not going to say politicians, friends of mine had warned me about that, the lingo, that basically we're just moving the power from one branch of government to the other. And I kind of rationalized, I voted yes for that because I rationalized, well, it's better that it's in more hands than just less, because then we'll have better representation. So it does make sense to vote yes on that. But the word on the ground was, and the assumption was, that if we did vote yes, then the emergency was gone. We get our normal lives back, which are still kind of highly controlled by the government, but our pre-COVID life back, which I've come to the conclusion we're never getting back. That's a whole nother video, maybe. So House Resolution 106 is introduced in order to end this mess now that we voted yes. And everybody last week when that news article came out kind of went berserk because it doesn't look like we're really getting what we voted for. And it looks like it was a little bit of a trick. So I wrote a nice spicy email to the Republicans in the House, letting them know exactly how we felt, calling out Kerry Bennginghoff and Brian Cutler, who is the Speaker of the House, by name, and they both called me. Funny how that works when you start to get some influence and the politicians know that. Then they'll actually listen to you and take your call. So we were playing phone tag. They left me a voicemail. I left them voicemails back. And lo and behold, tonight, Kerry Bennginghoff called me back. Caught me a little bit off guard. Saturday evening, kind of settling in for the night. And my phone rings. It's a number I don't recognize. I answer it. And Tony, this is Kerry Bennginghoff. Ooh, okay. Better get my talking voice on. So we had a good conversation. And I'm going to start with my conclusion. So I have done a couple of videos really being harsh on him, calling him out and saying that he needs replaced and he's a swamp critter and deep state, he has got to go. And I'm not saying that's not true, but having had a conversation with him, I feel that it's only fair to tell you guys about it and what I've learned and some of the things that he did say. My conclusion on Kerry Bennginghoff is that he is the typical politician. He is there to do a job to the best of his ability. He's not necessarily a fighter that's going to fight to keep the government out of we the people's business, which is essentially the way the American government was set up in the first place, which a lot of people sadly don't know. Most people don't know that our founding fathers, when they formed our constitutional republic, they wrote the Constitution in a way to protect the people from government. Their whole goal was representatives in Congress are there to make sure the government can't ever rule over the people. Basically, stay the heck up out of our business and let us live our lives. Let us have free enterprise. Let us be able to choose what we want to do in terms of making money and making a living so that it's a free and equal playing field for everybody. It's not a class system like communism or like it was in England with the monarchy where you were born into royalty. And if you were, you did one thing. And if you were a peasant, you did another. And then there were things in between. It was equal opportunity, level playing field. That was their vision for our government. Sadly, today it's been a slow drip and most people don't even realize it, but we are insanely controlled, and highly dependent on the government, way more than our forefathers ever intended. So I kind of view him in a conclusion before I get into any specifics as somebody who he's okay with status quo. He just wants to keep things kind of where they are, keep his nice cushy job. He's not really one to ruffle feathers. He's not going to push the envelope in terms of rocking the boat when the people want something done. Now, that being said, too, I will tell you this. I don't think he's definitely not going to be a help to us to get a forensic audit of the 2020 election in PA, but I also don't think he's going to be a roadblock. And the reason I don't think he's going to be a roadblock is because we did agree on some things. We really did have a good conversation, and he understands my points, which was basically throwing all the data at him that we have. What makes me think he's the typical politician and maybe on the slippery slope of totally dirty swamp critter and maybe just a normal sleazy politician is that a lot of the data I threw at him, I've been told from numerous sources who are very credible that he has seen this stuff back in November and December. However, he played dumb really well on the phone with me. So, for example, when he called me back, he initially launched into House Resolution 106, which we went back and forth for a little bit. And he did help me understand that the one aspect of the pandemic that they don't necessarily want to end the emergency disaster declaration is because of telemedicine. Because right now, since we're under this emergency situation, doctors can practice telemedicine with patients and they can bill the same as they do for an office visit. And apparently, if we get rid of the emergency disaster declaration altogether, that's going to go away. Now, if you're coming, someone from my perspective who's a conservative who wants the government just to stay the heck out of everything, I'm kind of wondering why in the heck they have to be involved in healthcare in the first place, and why can't healthcare companies just offer telemedicine at whatever price that they deem necessary? And he says, well, we don't want doctors taking advantage of that and going golfing in Florida and just doing everything via telemedicine and being able to make the same amount of money. And I said, well, doctors kind of take a Hippocratic oath to take care of their patients, and we don't trust them to make the best decision for the patient because they take that oath, which is supposed to be above money. So he didn't really have an answer for that. But anyway, I really wanted to get on to Audit the Vote because I've also been told by people who talk to him and know him regularly that anytime this subject comes up, he conveniently slithers his way out of it and doesn't talk about it. Well, he was not getting out of it with me. So yay, that was fun. He tried to blame a lot of things on Trump. He went after people tell me that I didn't fight hard enough for Donald Trump and that I didn't. And I stopped him right there and said, you really don't get it. This isn't about Donald Trump anymore. This isn't about Trump versus Biden. I don't think you had to fight for him. You don't fight for him. You fight for us. We're the people that you represent. And this election wasn't free and fair. And he asked why I thought that. And I threw a bunch of data at him, and all the data points, which I'm going to show you some of the ones, I'm going to screen share and show you some of the newer ones, he was radio silent on. I also asked him flat out, Kerry, do you have any idea why they stopped counting on election night? He says, no, I don't. I do think that's really strange. I said, do you have any idea why that 15,000 mail-in ballots were requested from a registered address in Pennsylvania and mailed out of state in the middle of a pandemic when nobody was traveling and students were cyber learning? And it was silent. He didn't even say no for that, complete silence. I did tell him that I've personally knocked on those doors and I have found fraudulent ballots, meaning this person had a mail-in ballot that was counted in the 2020 election that is on record from the State Department. But when you go to that address, that person doesn't live there and didn't live there in 2020. We have proof of that. He didn't have anything to say about that either. He also didn't have anything to say about the fact that Allegheny County, and this is a cool graphic I'm going to show you guys, Allegheny County, one of the many anomalies that we have discovered in our putting together the jigsaw puzzle that was the debacle of the 2020 election, is that between the years 2016 and 2020, if you'll remember, Donald Trump won the state of Pennsylvania in 2016 by, I believe it was 40 to 50,000 votes. It wasn't a whole lot, but he did win. Allegheny County between the years of 2016 and 2020 had over 200,000 registered Republican voters. Now, that's not necessarily brand new first-time voters. That's just Republican voters they registered. So whether people switched their party from Democrat to Republican or independent to Republican or just a new voter, 200,000 over, actually. I'm being conservative. When I throw out numbers, as much as my personality has a tendency to exaggerate, I really try to be conservative on numbers. Maybe that's the engineer in me. It's well over 200,000, but let's just leave it low. 200,000 new Republican registrations in those 4 years. The Democratic Party only had 7,000 new Democratic registrations in those 4 years. And if you look at the trend of voters in Allegheny County alone, Donald Trump got about 30,000 more votes in 2020 than he had in 2016 in Allegheny County. Joseph Biden got over 100,000 more votes than Hillary Clinton did in 2016 in 2020. Doesn't that sound a little strange? Think about that. 200,000 new Republican registrations and only 30,000 more votes. 7,000 new Democrat registrations and over 100,000 more votes. That's not jiving. And of course, he was silent on that one. One of the things he did suggest is that, would we be satisfied if we just audited Allegheny County? And I said, well, it's a start, as long as it's a full forensic audit. He also tried to throw at me that, well, we just don't, the machines have been wiped out because we had a May 18th primary, and we don't have the outer envelope and the inner envelope on the mail-in ballots don't match. The inner envelope, if you've seen one of these things, it's completely blank. The outer envelope is what has the address and the signature of the registered voter on it. I'm kind of wondering, wasn't there supposed to be some type of chain of custody thing where they were keeping those things together and keeping those on record? He seems to think that that stuff is just not really going to matter because we didn't really keep good records anyway, which I thought was really strange. And he also tried to blame things on Donald Trump. What I don't understand about Trump is, he could have ordered recounts. You can legally recount within the 20 days of the election. Why didn't he ask for ballots to be recounted in Philadelphia and Allegheny County and Montgomery, whatever? And I said, well, what is the use in recounting fraudulent ballots? You're going to come up with the same results. And since I've knocked on doors and found out that there were mail-in ballots that were fraudulent, meaning the registered voter that filled it out doesn't live at that address, why recount that ballot? It doesn't make sense. He didn't have an answer for that either. He also acted like he didn't know who Mike Lindell was or any of the information that's come out through there. He didn't act like he has no idea. Do you really think that the machines, he asked me, do you really think that the machines flipped votes? I said, well, I think Mike Lindell is either a lunatic or he's right. One of the two. Have you seen anything from Mike Lindell? No answer, silent. I asked him, oh, here's another interesting piece of information that he says he didn't know, or maybe he didn't say flat out he didn't know that. He was just silent. I don't know that he bold-faced lied to me on the phone. I think he just stayed silent on things and tried to play dumb. Again, that's my distinction between the regular sleazy politician versus the total deep state swamp critter that we are definitely dealing with in some areas. I think Benninghoff leans towards the regular sleazy politician because he didn't bold-faced lie to me. He just played dumb. So many of you will also know that we've been sharing through different right to know requests and Dr. Doug Frank's work that he's done in Pennsylvania with the legislators, we have found that third-party organizations have had access to our voter rolls for a long time. Those third-party organizations include Rock the Vote, the Clinton Foundation, and a bunch of their affiliates. When I said that to him, he said, where did you get that? I said, a right to know request. Where did you get that? I said, have you heard of Dr. Doug Frank? And it was silent. He stopped his line of questioning after that. No answer, just stopped. So that's kind of strange. And then he started talking about the Clintons. Says, oh, those evil Clintons. Bleh. And he started going off on them, which I don't disagree with, but just a kind of strange deflection to get away from the topic. So again, because he's in the House of Representatives, he doesn't necessarily, we don't need him for the directions that we're pursuing right now that we currently have to get our forensic audit in Pennsylvania to find out what the heck happened. And I was able to communicate to him that this really doesn't have anything to do with Trump or Biden, but it's about the security of our future country, that if we don't have a free and fair election system, after going through all these anomalies with him, which I've been told he was aware of, he tried to pretend like he wasn't, we don't have a country. He agreed with that. Another thing we agreed on is the media is a big issue. The media is propaganda. It's definitely not for we the people anymore, and it's doing way more damage than good. We did agree on that. So we agreed on some things. My conclusion, again, not a total swamp rat, basic sleazy politician. He's not somebody I think we need to pressure hardcore, because he's not someone we need to win over in order to get the audit. He is somebody, though, I still think we need to stay on top of so that he doesn't do something to block it. Now, he did tell me on the phone, I tried to tell him, Kerry, if you want to be a hero, one of the things you can do is come out and publicly support us and say that you support just to put an end to this, and Pennsylvania voters can have confidence in their election moving forward, which is, by the way, exactly why we're doing this. Let's just do a full forensic audit of at least Allegheny County. If you're willing to come out and publicly say that, you will become a hero. And he says, well, I don't really care about being a hero. And I said, well, how about this? Just don't fight us. Can you agree not to block it or get in the way of it in any way? And he said, absolutely. If you can figure it out, do your thing. He's not opposed to it. He just in his head has a, I don't know how that's going to go. I don't know. We're going to need people. We're going to need money. Blah, 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 blah. Like we knew that was coming. We have answers for every single one of those, and just keep the blocks coming, people, because we have an answer for everything, thankfully. So that's where we're at, people. If you're contacting him, keep the pressure on him so that he knows there's interest, especially from the people in his district. We definitely need to stay on that. But I just took him off my public enemy list. I still would recommend, if you're in his district, which I wish I could remember off the top of my head which one it is, maybe 171, is he in 171? I would recommend still that he should be primaried with someone who is more of a fighter, who will more keep the government at bay and let the people have their freedoms, and they'll protect the Constitution. He doesn't strike me as somebody like that. So that's my conclusion on Representative Benninghoff. Off my public enemy list, definitely not on my good guy list, sleazy politician. There you go. Now let's have some fun and get into some graphics. I'm going to show you guys some cool stuff. We're going to screen share, and I want to show you a few things that we got this week that are of interest. What screen am I sharing? Is it this one or is it that one? Let's try that one. I really need to get better at this. Is that my screen that has my email? So this is a cool graphic that came from, oh, there's my Zoom. Son of a gun, I'm not gonna be able to get to it, am I? I can't X out of that because I'm in the Zoom. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Maybe I'm not sharing my screen. What is that? Oh, yes. Ooh, who knew that? See how technology unsavvy I am? Okay, here we go. This is kind of crazy. This, by the way, is CTC. Oh, that's what they are. The Center for Tech and Civic Life. I threw that acronym out there on the phone with him and could not remember what it stood for. I noticed on my videos that it's hard to see the screen. I hope you guys can see this. The Center for Tech and Civic Life is essentially a company attached to Mark Zuckerberg and his wonderful money. And on the left are all the counties that you can see over here, where he has dumped millions of dollars. And right here, the grant amount, that is the amount of money that he dumped into those counties to help influence the election. And the grand total there at the bottom, I don't know if you can see that, is over $22 million that Mark Zuckerberg and his cronies dumped into the 2020 election. Allegheny, right at the tippy top, is where I'm going to focus. You can see over $2,052,251 is the grant that he put into Allegheny County. It is it the second or the third highest in terms of population? It's the second. Philadelphia is the biggest. Allegheny is second. Philadelphia down here has 1.5 million people. Allegheny has 1.2. And what you will notice, this is kind of the eye opener. In 2016, the number of Republican votes that Donald Trump got from Allegheny County, can you see that right there? 2016 Republican votes, 257,488. In 2020, the Republican votes he got were, I'm pointing at the screen like you can see my finger, you can't, 282,913. That is a $25,000 vote change difference. Now, remember what I told you, though. Between 2016 and 2020, Allegheny County added over 200,000 registered Republicans. So you're telling me that many people registered Republican in those 4 years and then didn't vote for Trump? I don't know. Something looks shady. Now this is what gets really interesting. 10% vote change. Yes, he was only 10% more popular, Donald Trump, in Pennsylvania between 2016 and 2020. Meanwhile, the week before the election, he came here to do a rally in Butler and had 60,000 people at the Butler airport. And No offense to my Butler folk. I'm from Newcastle, but Butler's nothing special. And he drew 60,000 people there. Side note, 2016 Democratic votes, what does that say? 363,017 votes. So Trump did lose Allegheny County in 2016. It did go to Hillary Clinton. She got 363,000 votes. However, Joseph Biden, who is our most popular president in history, after the party only registering an additional 7,000 people in those 4 years, grew, actually my other number was off, over 67,000 votes. That sounds a little strange, doesn't it? 20% change. So Joseph Biden got almost 70,000 more votes than Hillary Clinton when they only registered 7,000 more Democrats and 200,000 more Republicans. Yeah, I'm not buying it. And that's just Allegheny County. So that was the biggest anomaly of all of them. Chester looks like a fun place too. Let's look at Chester for a second. That Zuckerbuck put $2.5 million in. Isn't that lovely? And how many Republican votes did Chester County, where are we at? Chester. Republican votes 35,000. And is that to 2016? And 36,000. Is that right? No, that's center. I'm sorry, wrong one. Chester. 115,000 Republican votes in 2016, and 2020, 128,000. So he gained just under 13,000 votes in those 4 years. I don't know the stats on registrations there, so I won't throw that out there. But let's take a look at what Illegitimate Joe. Illegitimate Joe got 140,000, so it looks like Clinton won that county in 2016. But in 2020, Illegitimate Joe grew 42,000 votes in Chester County. That's kind of funny, considering Mark Zuckerberg dumped $2.5 million into that county. So that's a cool graphic. I am going to post this somewhere. This came from a brilliant data analyst from New York City, or the state of New York. And over here, you will see all the sources. FOIA is a Freedom of Information Act. And all the sources are over here. I know they're probably hard to see, but just so you know where this stuff is traceable, trackable, most of it either came from the State Department or it came from a FOIA request. So this isn't just random stuff we're throwing out there. And a lot of people ask me this too. I'm getting tons of credit for presenting this information, but what you need to know is I didn't do any of this analysis. I'm just being fed this analysis by brilliant people who didn't have a voice or a following, and the media wouldn't cover it, and they had no way to get it out there. And there's a lot of them that just communication isn't their strength. And so it's been filtered my direction to basically disseminate to the public, but I am not responsible for this data. There are brilliant minds that are not mine that are behind this, and they have everything completely backed up. That's the first cool infographic I wanted to show you. The next one, and we're going to end the video on this because this is going to be really good. Now, how the heck did I get to the, there it is. Where did I want to go next? There was a really cool screen. It wasn't in my Gmail. It's actually not in my Google Docs either. No, where'd it go? It's a PDF document I want to show you. And why doesn't it look like it's up there? Or is it? No, I don't want my Gmail. Thank you, though. Ooh. I stopped screen share. Technology is not my strength. Thank you guys for hanging in there with me. I do appreciate it. Let's try this again. I need to share a different screen. Figured it out. Okay. There we go. Screen sharing again. Here we are. We're going to take a look at year 1996. 1996 has some interesting anomalies. This is another reason why Mr. Benninghoff and I had a conversation about this. And this really, I swear to you people, has nothing to do with Donald Trump getting Donald Trump back in the White House, proving he won Pennsylvania. No, this is about making sure my kids don't live in a communist country. If we don't have a free and fair election system, that's not a good thing. So this goes back really far. I know we always get criticized. The media likes to do two things. They throw out two words when they want to discredit you. They call you a conspiracy theorist and you're a threat to democracy. Those are the only two arguments they have. They have no real factual data to back up anything. They just throw those two terms out there. And because of the indoctrination that they have injected into the American public over the last 50 years, sadly, people don't know how to think for themselves. And when they hear those two words, they cave. When you hear those two words, if you're watching this video, you're getting educated. Conspiracy theory, threat to democracy, nonsense. Keep digging and asking questions. Doesn't mean what you're going after is true. It just means you better continue to ask questions to get to the bottom of it. 1996 proved to be a rather interesting year. Now, this data comes from another brilliant mind I'm working with personally from Pennsylvania. His name is Vico. And I'm not going to read that to you, but voter registrations by year. And this is something Seth Keshel is going to go through with us when we interview him next week. We're going to make public. He's another, I keep saying it. There's so many brilliant minds in our country at work that have looked at this data. And I love it because the more angles we look at it from, the more data analytics we look at it from through people who didn't collaborate together, but were coming to the same conclusion, the more likelihood that this stuff is true. So voter registrations tracking how many voters there were per party is one of the way that the polls in the past have been able to predict elections, or if you study trends on who won, how many registrations came from that party, it is there's a correlation. It's a definite trend. And so this is going to show you registrations. We're going to go through a couple of counties since, again, you probably can't see this because my screen. Okay, I know you guys can't see that. We start all the way over there at 1900, whatever. As you can see, we don't even have anything tracked on here until the 1950s and 60s. So this to me looks pretty normal. This is just every presidential election year tends to be a spike in voter registrations for obvious reasons. So every 4 years you have these spikes. So this is kind of normal, up, down, a little bit, whatever. There's 2020. That's Berks County. Or wait, did I just go down to Berks when I had Butler? There's Butler. Again, it's just a zigzaggy thing, zigzaggy graph up and down. Nothing out of the ordinary. For the most part, registrations increasing every presidential election, decreasing in some of them. But there's Butler, there's Berks. You see the same type of trend. Registrations up and down, fun zigzags. There's Bucks County, same type of trend, just a bunch of zigzags, no big deal. Chester County is a little weird. You see, in 1973, there was a little bit of a spike there, which I find kind of odd. What is that number? Let me zoom in and see if I can see. 14,986 registrations in the year between 1970 and 1973. So that's kind of odd. So we're looking for anomalies like that. Now let's go back up to compare just to show you. Bucks County in 1970, that same time frame, nothing crazy, nothing crazy. Same thing with, let's keep going up. Same thing with Berks County. Look, nothing crazy around 1973-ish, pretty normal curve. Let's go back up and look at Butler. Yep, same thing. So what the heck happened in Chester County? What the heck happened in Chester? That's a little weird. Food for thought. Maybe something we want to look into. Again, this is why we want a forensic audit, so we can get to the bottom of this. I love how the other side screamed from the rooftops in 2016 that Donald Trump cheated and these machines are hackable and this was an attack from foreign enemies, Russia. But all of a sudden, magically in 2020, their candidate wins and it's completely secure. It's the most secure election in history. And you're a lunatic if you question it. Start digging and go back, people. This goes back further than Donald Trump. And I would say to you, if you're on the other side, let's say Donald Trump wasn't elected legitimately in 2016. Don't you think that's something we should get to the bottom of now before we fall into communism? Okay. This is my favorite. Here it is, Montgomery County. So all the other ones had these nice little zigzags, steadily rising. Montgomery County, however, in 1996 has this huge spike. What in the world is that? The year 1996. Who was elected president in 1996? Do we have any guesses? It was Mr. Bill Clinton, ran against Bob Dole and Ross Perot. Anybody remember Ross Perot? That was my husband, actually, the first election. He's 1 year older than me. He was able to vote. I was not. I was still 17. It was the first presidential election he ever voted in. So he remembers that one because he voted for Ross Perot. Montgomery County. So here's what's really interesting about that. Look at this. County registrations compared. So it took all those graphs you see up here, Montgomery, Bucks, Chester, Berks, and Butler County. And that registration curve just kind of put them over each other. Look at that crazy outlier, that 1996 in Montgomery County. Does that stick out like a sore thumb a little bit? What is that essentially telling us? And now you hear my cat in the background. Well, we're going to go all the way back up to the top and I'm going to explain to you what it tells us. It tells us that I know this is hard to see too. All those registrations in 1996, on August 29th, there were 147,850 total registrations in that one county on that one day, on August 29th of 1996. I think that's a little bit weird. Yeah, just a little. What's better is that of those 147,815 registrations, 120,000 of those actually voted in our 2020 election in Montgomery County. You hear Twilight Zone music yet? Anybody in the back of their head? I do. And some other interesting stats. Over 100, there are 188 people over the age of 100 that were registered on this date. The 120-year-old who voted in the 2020 election is among these registered on this date. And you can see all these other anomalies that Vico has nicely laid out here. Let's see what else did he have? There was something else that made this kind of even more special is, where's it at? Yep, there it is. 1996 saw more registrations due to that one anomaly than 2004, 2016, and 2020 combined. Likely, but not confirmed, more than 2012, 2008, 2020, and 2016 combined. So something is rotten in the state of Denmark, people. If you've read Shakespeare, you've heard that before. My high school English teacher hammered that into my head, and something goes wrong, I still hear that to this day. Check this out, Montgomery County, 1996, 147,815 registrations. What could the is there a legitimate explanation for that? And if so, what is it? I quite honestly have no idea. And that is why we want a forensic audit of the 2020 election. I'm going to stop screen sharing. That's why we want a forensic audit, so we get answers to these questions, all the stuff that just nobody has an answer for, like why the votes stopped counting and why there's that data point in Montgomery County and all the other stuff that I feel like a broken record. I'm saying it so much. So I hope I'm pretty much done. I am done. I hope you have enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something. Again, Kerry Bennginghoff, sleazy politician, perhaps off my public enemy list. We'll see how it goes. I'll keep you posted, but appreciate you guys for watching. Feel free to share this video with anybody that you think in Pennsylvania, especially, that could learn something. Sign our petition. Our support's going through the roof. Good things are going to start happening. There's not a whole lot more I can make public at this time, but things are going to start happening soon. Not auditing the 2020 election in Pennsylvania is not an option. Don't really know how it's going to play out exactly. We have multiple strategies going at the same time, but I can tell you that good things are coming. So if you haven't signed the petition yet, go to auditthevotepA.com. You can sign the petition there. There's tons of resources. You can, if you feel led to donate to us for our expenses that we're going to need, whether it's legal funds. People ask me, do you need money? I'm like, we have an account right now with money in it for whatever is coming ahead. We really honestly don't know. If we go the legal route, there will be legal fees. We'll see. The reason we started a Give, Send, Go account and we're raising funds is because people wanted to give us money to support us. They agreed with our cause. They wanted an audit. They wanted to help us out. And so they wanted to give us money and we had nowhere to put it. So we opened a Give, Send, Go account. If you feel led to donate, please do, but there's no pressure. There's two things I said I wouldn't do when I started this venture. I was not going to knock on doors and I was not going to raise money. Guess what I'm doing? God has a really good sense of humor. So that is it for this video on exposing the fraud. Stay tuned to the next one. I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing next because my head is spinning from everything that happened this week. It's all good stuff. But thank you guys for watching. We appreciate it. And I will see you soon.